All right, the plan is simple. Feeling awkward right now because my neighbors are out working on their garden and I'm filming content. Life of an influencer. Today, the topic today is stop gatekeeping sprinting. Sprinting's not complicated. Just find some flattish ground, start at 50%, and then maybe on your first sessions, you're only going to build up to 75%. No skipping, no A skips, no karaoke's, no nothing. Don't do any of that. Frankenstein's dynamic warm up. Leave it all to the side. To sprint, all you need to do is warm up and sprint. First sprinting warm up. Here we go. Wah, wah, wah. Can confirm that is super awkward to film content in front of your neighbors. The excuse is always, oh, I'm just filming myself for form, but we all know what's really happening. Okay, rep number 2 coming up. I watched a 3-minute video on how to start your 40, and that's all I'm going off of. Again, just make it simple. Felt pretty good. Still very awkward. All right, sprint session done. I wanted to do a lot of talking out there, but again, super awkward making content when your family is arriving and your neighbors are out there gardening. I had my neighbor ask me, "What are you doing out there? What's that little device you got there?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm filming myself sprinting." He says, "Oh, you're serious?" Because that's just at this stage super embarrassing to say, "Oh, I'm making content for my thousands and millions of subscribers." Love you all, by the way. So the topic of today is just like, let's get out of our own way with sprinting. I know when you reach 40, a lot of people just kind of stop doing these faster, more dynamic things because they think there's some kind of injury risk associated with it. Certainly, if you engage in sprinting, that's going to be a higher rate of injury than if you were to just jog or participate in endurance sports. But I'm not even, this is not the video about the benefits of sprinting. You're going to get jacked and you're going to get a hormonal boost and like all this kind of questionable stuff. Sprinting is just great because there's no other way to get faster and be athletic than to go out and sprint, right? So let's just talk about practical ways to kind of get that going. The first thing, tailing back to getting out of your own way, there's no secret, man. It's just about intent. You're just running. I assume you know how to run, and you're running at the highest, fastest rate you possibly can. So the only risk you run is if you're not prepared for that task of running at 100%. So, what I would suggest, practical takeaways for getting into sprinting. Number one is do a lot of warm ups. Okay. This is a time to work on technique. Do my knees feel good when I kind of drive them up? What does it feel like when I'm not just jogging and there's a little bit more range of motion going through my legs when I'm running? Do a bunch of reps at 50%. Most of my running protocols for my athletes start people on a 4-week split of running at 50%. And you're getting like a 2-3 work to rest ratio, 2 to 3 to 1 work rest ratio, rest work ratio, I guess it would be. So if it's good enough for somebody who's injured, it might be a good starting point for someone who hasn't sprinted in a very long time. Just do it at 50%. Work on what you would assume sprinting looks like. It doesn't even have to be your 100%, the fastest you've ever run. We're just trying to prepare your body for the demands ahead. Those first few, I'll just tell you what I did. So there were a couple of sessions out there on the grass where I just looked like dog poop, poopy diaper, and I was running at 50%. It doesn't feel great. You don't feel super proud of yourself doing 20-yard sprints at 50%. But again, you can start to sneak in those 60s, those 70%, and start to creep in some sprinting volume so that you can build yourself up to those higher intensities. I would hang out at that 50% mark for a couple of weeks and then just build it up 10% at a time. And you might pyramid it. So let's say you're going to do 10 total sprints, okay? So session one is going to be 10 50% sprints at about 20 yards, right? And then you might run that even a couple of weeks. Be really conservative with it. At that third week, you could then start putting in increasing numbers of 60% runs. So maybe that first one, you just do 50% runs and you do a 60%. You work this process with just your same 10 runs, right? Doesn't take a lot with sprinting. You can see how sweaty and what a mess I am, and start to increase the intensity, but build it in a pyramidal fashion. So what that might end up looking like is 5 at 50%, 4 at 60%, 1 at 70%. Another example would be 3 at 50%, 2 at 60%, 1 at 70%, 1 at 80%, or just the rest of your reps at 80% if that's feeling like it's what your body can handle. But there's no magic to it. I kind of like this 10ish reps. That seems to be the point of diminishing returns, at least for where my work capacity is at the moment. I assume professional sprinters perform a lot more sprints, but this is a nice entry point and a nice way to kind of titrate your intensity so that you're not blowing a hamstring your first day out on the field. The general recommendation for sprinting is doing it twice a week. I did not follow that. Sundays were my sprint days, and then I would just play a lot of basketball. Let's qualify that. When you're playing a field sport or a court sport, unless you're a wide receiver, it's very unlikely that you're getting full on sprints on during your sport. So it's important to train that quality, that speed quality, outside of your sport. General recommendation is to do that twice a week. Taking my own advice, I only did that once a week. And then now I'm starting to flirt with doing it twice a week while I'm maintaining all my basketball and other weightlifting demands. Another key to sprinting is to have a long warm up. And if you've seen any of my other content, you know that I'm just a proponent of warming up with the task at hand. So, using our 50% sprint model, if you have built the capacity where you can tolerate about 10 sprints at, call it 90 to 100% effort, then all of my workout would look like, and I've done this in the past, is 6 warm up sprints, building 50, 50, 60, 70, 80, 80, and then I would get into my 90, 100% reps. So that might be a first nice goal, is to build yourself up to 10 sprints at about 80 to 90, sometimes touching 100%, where you're not snapping yourself up, where you're not feeling like you can't get out of bed the next day. And then I might even split the volume and go 5 and 5 and do it twice a week, and then build each one of those sessions up. So I'm doing six sprints at 80 to 100%, 6 sprints at 80 to 100% on a non-consecutive day, and then building that up until I have 10 and 10. And so that's kind of the stage that I'm at now. If you need further complexity, then you might have a workout on one day where you're working on your start, right? Beginning your sprint mechanics from a dead stop. And then on that second day, you might have a speed day where you kind of get a run in, and then at a certain interval you're building up your acceleration, and then you're trying to hold your maximum speed for 10 15 yards. That could be a second workout. Or you could blend those two qualities where if I'm doing 2 times a week sprinting, 10 sprints and 10 sprints, I'll do 5 starts and I'll do 5 speed or acceleration work. And then I'll do 5 starts and 5 acceleration top speed workouts. Excuse me, top speed repetitions. All I'm trying to do for you today in this video is to demystify sprinting. It can seem daunting and it can seem scary because nobody wants to get hurt. But maybe just take my word for it. I know I'm just a random internet physiotherapist who's wearing sunglasses inside his basement, but I I know enough about sports and athletic development to assure you there's no special drills, there's no special correctives. You are not broken. You are fully capable of doing this and performing this safely. The body is, I want you to think like this. This is how I think. My feeling is that the body is almost infinitely adaptable. It wants to adapt. It wants to become anti-fragile. It wants to grow, but it can't do it all at once. If you have a nice stepwise, not necessarily linear, maybe more logarithmic progression into your sprinting, there's nothing you can't handle, but you can't do it all at once. So take that for what it's worth. Start your sprints at 50%, start building up those intensities, start slowly building up those repetitions, that volume. And then once you're kind of sprinting twice a week, you're starting to seriously train. And you might even notice that in your sport or in your repetitions on the track or backyard grass, like I did today, that you're getting pretty speedy. And that's a pretty cool thing when you're above 40. I blew it. And that's a pretty cool thing when you're an athlete over 40.